What's going on, lads? Sean here, Hammerhead Garage. Welcome to the Sunday night Spitball session. Another night of foolishness and virtual reality dreaming about hot rod endeavors. So, all you like-minded gearheads, get your butts in here, and we'll jaw about some stuff. I've been thinking some more about my plans, and I want to hear what's going on with your guys' projects. See what we're all doing here. See how things are going. Thanks for you guys that are watching this and watching the replay later. Appreciate it. So I had an interesting kind of week. I didn't do a lot of mechanical work. I worked actually 3 days on that motorcycle project that I've been working at, that XV 1900 transmission, which is turning out to be quite the ordeal. So I discovered that there's 2 teeth broken off in the transmission. So that's unfortunate for the owner, because the parts are back ordered until May the 1st, and hopefully not longer. Sometimes what happens is they'll put like a back order date of like May the 1st, and then you're like, okay, well, if I order today, I'll get it by then. And then you go 2 weeks later and you check it out again, and it's been back ordered now until July 31st or something like that. So hopefully that's not the case, because we'd like to get this project done so the guy can ride the bike here in another month or so. Well, that's that's kind of wishful thinking. It's still minus 20 at night here, and I get a foot of snow on the ground. So usually we start riding our motorcycles around the first part of May, like May the 1st, the first week in May. If you get some warm days, you can handle it. Anyway, I'm just enjoying a nice coffee. What are you guys up to? I see my buddy Admiral Sandwich is on here. What's going on, Will? So anyway, so just not doing a whole lot. This week coming, I've got the top end I have to take apart on a 2014 Suzuki Eiger ATV. I've got a cylinder, a piston, a wrist pin rings. I have to do a top end on it. He bought this thing on Kijiji, which is a kind of like Craigslist for you guys down in the US. And it was a used machine, and he didn't check it over that carefully. And it smokes like a mosquito fogger when you start it up. Like, he burns like a liter of oil every 15 minutes, I think, in this thing. So I took the spark plug out of it, and the plug gap was bridged. So right off the bat, you know that she's a hurting unit. So I did a compression check on it, and it was about 60 pounds. And it's a mess. So we ordered a whole new deal, a cylinder, piston, wrist pin, rings, base gasket, head gasket. There's Canadian Marauder, my friend from Saskatchewan, having a glass of wine and cooking supper. Good deal, man. So hopefully we'll be able to fix that mosquito fogger for Buddy there. And there's some warm days actually coming up here. It's supposed to be plus 12 to 15 Monday to Thursday, I think, this week. So I'll see if I can get her together there. He brought it off. He dropped it off to me here today. So I'll move the truck out of the shop and I'll get it in there and start taking it apart. It's nice when you have the pieces. You can just go to work and do it. But anyway, I got that to go. And then I had another guy calling me today about a 1997 Yamaha Big Bear 350. Pretty old machine. So it's the exact same thing, only this guy has problems with the cylinder head. I guess there's no compression or very little compression, so that's likely to be a train wreck too. So I've just been trying to find parts and pieces for that old dinosaur, which they don't offer anything from Yamaha, or not very much anymore. So I have to go through my other routes in order to get parts. eBay is a popular one, but I try and avoid the non-brand name stuff if I can. Like, I've used Nomura pistons and stuff. They seem to be pretty good, but any of the cheaper Chinese makes, I try and stay away from it as much as possible. It's one thing if it's just my machine to do that, but if you're you have a customer who, you know, he relies on it or whatever, you kind of want to get him the best stuff you can get. But anyway, I'm just enjoying this nice fresh coffee here I just brewed. It's 8:30 my time here in Halifax. I don't know what time it is where you guys are, but these days, man, I don't know what it is. I can't keep my damn eyes open. I tend to nod off a lot earlier. So the coffee definitely helps in that regard. Anyway, yeah, so I got this book this week. I don't know if you can see that. I think you can. How to Build a Supercharged, Turbocharged Small Block Ford. It was on Amazon, pretty cheap. I figured, give it a look just to see what it's about. There's some cool stuff in it, but really nothing that helps me. It's about 90% supercharger stuff and about 10% turbocharging, and there's only a few pages on turbocharging. But he did mention that there was a guy in there had a small block Ford 5-liter out of a 93 Mustang GT twin turbo that was running on the street in the 9s, 630 in Saskatchewan. That's right. You guys don't do that foolish daylight savings there, I don't think, do you? But anyway, in another week or so, we're going back the other way, so that'll be interesting. I don't know about you guys, but that always screws me up whenever they do that time shift deal thing where you lose an hour and you gain an hour. I never know whether I'm losing or gaining or where the hell I am, to be honest, right? But anyway, this book is kind of cool. There's some vintage pictures of like Carroll Shelby, some of his GT350 Mustangs that he put a supercharger in them, 6 PSI blower. And they made some fairly good horsepower gains. And they didn't even back the timing off. I was surprised. They're running 36 degrees, 16 initial, and then 36 total. So they were just like sending it, letting her eat. But of course, remember, any of you guys that are old enough to remember, the gas back in them days was a lot better than it is now. Nowadays, it's ethanol garbage. And you know what, guys? I've seen machines that wouldn't start after 45 days of sitting with ethanol fuel in it, like regular pump gas. It would not start. The thing was, I had to drain the fuel system and fill it up with fresh, crappy gas to get it to run, right? But you're not supposed to spray engines with ether, but you know what? I've done it in the past, and as long as you're careful with it, I don't think there's anything wrong with starting fluid. People are always saying, oh, you'll blow your engine up. No, I don't think so. If you've ever seen my dad start a tractor trailer at minus 30, a big diesel Western Star that's been sitting all night, and I'm hanging off the side of the truck, shooting half a can of ether in the breather while he's cranking this thing. And then when it starts, it scares you so bad that you have to jump off the thing because it's shaking like a leaf blower and making the most awful noises. If that'll stay together, then you know, with that much ether in it, then you know, I'm not worried about a little engine or even a car engine, just a little shot down the breather there to get things going. But yeah, so turbochargers, superchargers, all that stuff's been on my mind lately, as you guys know. And it seems that maybe for you fellas in the States, I don't know, but supercharging might be a better option. I mean, it's certainly an easier option as far as fabrication goes. You get a kit. Hopefully you get one for your vehicle. You put it in. You figure out where your power steering, if you have it, and your water pump, how you're going to drive all that. And, you know, you get a blow-through carb, whether it's in a box or with a scoop on it, and you send it down the road. Turbocharging is a little more difficult. There's a lot more hoses, a lot more, you know, bits and pieces, a lot more tubing. But believe it or not, in Canada here, it seems to be a cheaper option, especially if it's a do-it-yourself deal, where you weld up your own hot side, your own cold side, and just source the turbo and lines, and like you can get all those parts. I did, however, this week, I don't know if you guys know who Brule 2L is. He's a Fox Body guy on YouTube here. he was talking about something that's going on in the States that was kind of disconcerting a little bit. I don't know if you guys heard tell of it, but apparently there's some group down there. It's I don't know if it's a government group or EPA or pollution or environmental people that are trying to get on the bandwagon of squashing hot rodding or aftermarket parts makers that, like, you know how a lot of that stuff says off-road only, like that you buy from Jegs or Summit, but of course guys use it on the street, right? Well, they're trying to squash that, and they're trying to come up with some sort of ridiculous rule that's basically going to kill the aftermarket. Now, if that happens, it's going to be a disaster, not only for American people, but for us up in Canada, because a lot of the parts that we get here, up here are from you guys down there, right? But it'll go old school then. It'll be like Australia, where you have to wait 6 months to get a carburetor. So the guys over in Australia learned a long time ago that if you're going to have a hot rod, you just got to build what you need. So there'll be a lot of guys that'll be going that route. They'll be fabricating their own things, and of course, we're never going to stop. I mean, once you get the sickness, it's hard to let go of it. It's one of those things where, you know, you want to go faster and faster and faster. At least I do, all the time. You know, until something you scare yourself, right? You want to get a little bit of a fright just to know that you're still alive, right? Any of you guys that have ever had uncles back in the 60s and 70s and drove with them in their muscle cars, you know what I'm talking about. You'd have more than a fright. I remember going down the 4-lane at a Moncton, New Brunswick, when I was a kid. My uncle had I forget what it was. It was a Challenger or something. But anyway, it had a 383 Magnum in it. And he stood on that thing. I'm telling you, we were doing 140 miles an hour for like 10 miles straight up the 4-lane. And then, you know, of course, we were just kids and we were loving it. And my uncle looked over and he says, "Don't tell your mother." But anyway, that's the way it was, you know, back then. No seatbelts, you know, beer cap removers on the dashboard, and like it was just total craziness. But the good old days, right? But yeah, so once the bean counters get involved in this emissions thing, and of course the whole planet's, they're scared of their shadow. They're banning plastic bags over here in Nova Scotia. I don't know if they are where you are, but they're banning plastic bags, and everybody's on a big environmental kick. And you know, it's like they're making all these carbon footprint things so that they can put more carbon tax on you, and blah blah blah. If that creeps into the hot rodding aftermarket world, it'll be a sad deal. It'll make things a lot harder. But any case, I always shock old ladies when I'm buying appliances and they ask me, "Would you like the extended warranty?" I said, "No, lady, I don't want the extended warranty, because when this thing craps out, I'm just going to throw it on top of the tire fire like I normally do." She's like, "Tire fire?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "That's how we get rid of our old tires. We just burn them in a big pile." I said, "I just hucked the DVD player or the toaster right on top of that." So, you know, I was having a rant one day in the store because they wanted to charge me like $13 for some environmental fee. In my case, it was justified because of the pollution, but but anyway, no, we're just having fun with her. But she was totally horrified, this woman, that I'd be so irresponsible to the environment. Not bad. Not bad at all, fellas. So I hope you guys had a good weekend. A lot of you fellas are probably heading back to work tomorrow. I will be too, but it'll be later in the day. But anyway, we'll see what we can get done. It's supposed to warm up. That's a big deal here where I'm at. When you get into the plus temperatures, you know, things tend to go a lot easier if you're doing anything outside. So that's kind of the main deal. I did get some parts in for the Turbo project. You guys probably saw my little community tab post that I can do now because I have 1,000 subscribers. Yay. I put a picture of the wastegate that I got. It's a 60 millimeter. I still have to take it apart because it's a cheaper quality one. So I want to make sure that there's no burrs in there or any leftover machining garbage or whatever. I have to clean all that out of there. So I will be taking it apart. And also, I think it's got a 14 psi spring in it, so I want to put the 7-pound spring in there. Might be a good idea. What was it? Admiral Sandwich is saying, thankfully, when Sean has trespasser sign, they don't pay attention to it. He can do something about it. Yeah, well, not too many trespassers out here, man. It's kind of a unique bunch of individuals up where I am here. They're a pretty good bunch for the most part. But anyway, yeah, trespassers. Yeah. We have the odd one, but I got cameras and motion sensors, and I know when they're coming long before they even get anywhere near my place. So, which is kind of what you got to do when you live out in the country. So, I don't have anyone around me. I've got 500 acres of crown land all the way around me, pretty much, except for my nearest neighbor. But in any case, yeah. So, I haven't seen a whole lot this week. What anyone else is doing. My buddy Sean Cadden from this guy's garage had a couple of little videos there, but it's winter time. It's hard to get content this time of year here. But he had an ice racing series. If you guys want to see what that's about, go check out his channel. Yeah, and the other dude there that had the Turbo Ranger, he had the little 4-cylinder Turbo Ranger. He got some sort of fuel injection system on it this week that he was playing with, and he was giving him a bit of a fit out of the box, and he had to call them up there and find out what the deal was to get it calibrated so it would run. But anyway, he got it running and was doing a couple burnouts with it. So he's going to be upping the boost on his little project. Man, it's a quick little truck for just a little 2.3 turbo, but the thing will move pretty good. So that's interesting. I watched Nick's Garage. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but it's a Mopar guy in Canada here. He's got live shows and a lot of stuff, hot rod engine related. I like to tune in there and watch some of his stuff. It's very entertaining. Street Outlaws doesn't really have anything much going on right now. I usually watch a little of that. I just watched 660 Street. They had a Cash Days down in Houston, Texas. They just uploaded it there a few hours ago. That was a pretty good little deal. I think there was 26 racers, and they had a $5,000 pot. And there's some pretty quick stuff in that thing. Wow, man. There was this one Mustang. He was hauling the mail. Like, I don't know how fast he was going, but he was flying parachute fast. And they were on these dirty streets, and you could see all the dirt and everything curling out from behind the cars, right? From all the loose gravel and garbage on the road, right? That's the only thing about street racing that must be a challenge, is when you get these super high horsepower cars and you're trying to get them to hook up on a dirty road. You got to be a pretty good tuner to make that happen. You have to know where to pull power out and where you can safely start ramping it back in and all that sort of jazz, right? But my truck's going to be pretty old school initially. I won't even have any computerized stuff in it. Eventually, I would like to get rid of the distributor and just go to a coil on plug setup. And then it's kind of good then, because I can just use a laptop and I can set the timing and the fuel curve on each individual cylinder. So that's a big deal on an old truck. To be able to get some sort of modern type stuff to be able to set the fuel curve and timing curve on each cylinder. That's worth some power. But that stuff's expensive. I've been staying away from it as long as I can, and I may never even get there, to be honest. I might stay as old school as I possibly can. Parachute fast, yeah. When you got a parachute on your daily driver, Marauder, you're moving. You're friggin' sending it. If you got a chute on her, if the service brakes aren't big enough to stop you, you got something. You got a rocket. As far as television, automotive shows, I won't watch it. Bunch of BS and sell it. Yeah, for the most part, man. I mean, there's some knowledge to be picked up there, but there's also a lot of what not to do, and you can tell too that a lot of these dudes know they're on television. I mean, It's just part of the territory. But I do watch. I like to watch Engine Power, and I watch some of them, right? Because you do pick up a few little odds and ends now and then, right? I don't watch TV, Will, because we get rid of our television like years ago. We don't have cable or anything out here. I mostly just stream stuff online. I think that's what a lot of people do nowadays, anyway. Just watch it on their computer. Um, Man, the internet and the computer people have really killed cable companies. They're probably barely even existing right now. With all the shutdowns and all that. But of course, they got to keep the television stations up so that people can get the news and all. But anyway, yeah. So what else is crapping? Yeah. Okay. So I got the wastegate. I got a 4AN braided feed line for the turbo. I also got, what else did I get? Oh, I got 10 feet of 10AN braided race hose that's good to 300 psi with some AN fittings so I can do my drain back and all that. What else did I pick up? Oh, I ordered some brass tees with a 1/8 inch NPT so my pressure switch can mount on that, and then I can run vacuum lines over. I ordered a manual boost controller, a blow off valve. I got a turbo blanket for the heat of the turbo. I got this. You guys have seen these. They just go around the hot side, right? And you can keep from melting your crap. They're made out of some sort of fire retardant or heat resistant type material. Not even sure what it is. It's kind of probably similar to header wrap, would be my guess. And I saw this other I was looking try and find cheap exhaust pipe, and there's this group called Mamatro, I think it is. Let me just quickly check here. I don't know if you guys have ever done business with these people or not. If you have, let me know, because I'm thinking about putting an order through to them. They have ridiculously cheap prices on things. So let me spell it here for you. You guys might know who this is. It's MAATTRRAMO.com. Matramo.com. But anyway, they got this stuff. They got 4-foot sections of 2.5 inch exhaust pipe and elbows. I think 4 or 5 45 degree and 90 degree mandrel type elbows, 2 inch. And they have a T4 flange that has a dual outlet. So you can just plug the exhaust pipe straight in it and weld it up. And a bunch of other stuff for $100 Canadian. That's with shipping. So I don't know. I can't find any reviews about anybody using them though on the internet. That sort of worries me a little bit. But I mean, if they burn me, I'm only out $100. But still, I don't know where this stuff's coming from. India or something. I mean, who knows? But it might, for that cheaper price, it may be worth just pulling the trigger on it and just see what ends up showing up in the mail. I know everything's been friggin' slow as dirt. Parts coming up here. But it's funny because I ordered that piston and cylinder for that ATV, and the shipping date said March 23rd. You'll have it by March 23rd. And I got it 3 days ago. So, I don't know. Like, some things seem to come really quick, and other things, they don't show up at all. But I know at work, we're way behind on our Suzuki and Yamaha orders. 6 to 8 weeks on both of them or more. And people calling every day, and we don't have the parts, and there's nothing we can do about it. I think it's the same everywhere. Like automotive have been having problems too, getting stuff right. Yeah, $100 is still $100. I mean, I'd like to find some info on them. Like, if you guys could help me out, if you knew who these people were. MAATTRRAMO.com is the company name. Matramo. They got a about us kind of deal here. I'll read you what it says. We are proud of the quality and consistency of the product and service provided to our customers and here to make your online shopping experience excellent. All orders are treated with the utmost care to meet the needs of our customers. Of course, it's the typical blah, 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 right? But I do see that they do have secure credit card and PayPal setups for their payments. So hard to say. Thankfully, the tire rack warehouse I work at isn't too bad. Yeah, but you must notice a difference, Will, I would say, from a difference from last year to this year. But we've noticed a huge difference. But the thing is, what I do for a living, the business has actually gotten better because of this. Because before, the way it is here in Canada is during the winter months, the really bad winter months like January, February, where it's cold as shit and snowy, most Canadians get on an airplane and they fly south. Like they go down to the Dominican Republic or Cuba or someplace like that. Well, because of the beer bug, they haven't been doing that. So they've been staying in the province here and they've been spending their money here that they would have spent on vacations. And it's equaling more snowmobile, motorcycle, small engine type stuff, and more parts being purchased and more machines getting worked on and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of good in a way, I guess, in that regard. But problem is we can't get the bits. We have a hell of a time getting parts. Oh, not bad, not bad. Yeah, so what else am I doing here? I got you said a bunch of little things. They're sending them in these little packages now. Like you can barely see them; they're so small. But my little brass tee, with the barb fitting on it and stuff like that. And they got those. I don't know if you've ever seen these. They're like a gear clamp, but it's got like a little wrench on the end, so you can turn like instead of using a dime or something, you can turn it with that. That's kind of neat. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And stuff's trickling in slowly. Oh, I got the carb hat, the boosted hat for the carburetor applications is from Spectre. It's a 4-inch, and I should be able to. I have to tap it though and put a couple of fittings in it because one of the fittings to your boost gauge goes there, and also one of the lines from your manual boost controller goes in there. So you have to, have brass fittings or whatever, something that'll take. It shouldn't be too hot up there. It should be fairly cool, but it'll probably warm up a little. But that's why I'm going to wrap everything. I want to put a turbo blanket on, and I'm going to header wrap all the pipes. That and to hide my crappy welds. But if I can get the pipe cheap enough, if I screw up a little bit of it, it won't be that big a deal. But to go down here locally to get like a section of 2.5-inch exhaust pipe, they charge you $50 for it. Like it's ridiculous. There's no deals. So if I have to, I don't want to get too dirty with this, but if I have to, I'm just going to go to the wrecking yard with a Zolzaw and just cut off the best 2.5-inch pipe I can find underneath trucks or something. I'll just cut off sections, and then I can take it home with the flapper disc and clean it up and make it good, right? It doesn't have to be pretty, and it ain't going to be stainless. I'm going to build it just quick and dirty right now, and once I get all my bends figured out, if I want to replicate that in stainless later, well, I'll buy the shiny, nice stuff and TIG it up. Use a TIG welder, TIG it all together. That'll be a good project for the winter when you're not using the truck. You just figure out all your bends and like trace it all out, the lengths and everything. So when I build this, I should probably keep track of how long these pieces are and write it all down so that I can make templates and duplicate it again, right? If I go to build it in stainless. Probably be smart. But anyway, it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to work. And I got to make sure I got a flex coupler. I got a 6-inch one. I'm going to put right in the middle because the engine does move, on the mounts. And you want to be able to not have your pipe too rigid because you're going to be dealing with cracks and all that sort of stuff, which is never cool when you're trying to spin a turbine. You want to get as much airflow in there as you can to spin that sucker. But I went with the big wastegate because they're telling me that if you're trying to keep boost low, which is what I'm trying to do, you want to have a bigger wastegate so that you can blow off all that excess pressure to keep from overspinning the turbo. The turbo for this truck, the one I got, is probably it's actually very well rated for a 5-liter engine. Yeah, so as long as you're getting 10 pounds out of it, then sounds good. Yeah, I'll get more than 10 out of it. Like if I wanted to let this thing keep boosting, it would go to, I think they said in the brochure you could do 30 psi with it. That's the thing about this precision. It's no cheap piece of garbage. It's a pretty decent. It's a precision deal, right? So it's good to 750 or 800 horsepower capable. So whatever boost pressure that is above atmospheric. But that engine that I have in there now would blow apart long before it ever got to that. If I intercooled it or a water meth injection, I could do a 10-pound deal, and the transmission rear end would still handle that. But the problem is going to be traction, boys. I'm going to need some serious rubber under there, cal tracks, a way to get some weight off the front of the truck to the rear of the truck, like the battery's got to go back there. And don't blow the welds in the intake, just like on Fast and the Furious movie there. No, I'm not going to be blowing no welds off of it. I'll make sure there's enough pigeon poop on there to hold them no matter how silly I get. But the 60 millimeter gate is a better deal for somebody that's trying not to make as much pressure, because you can get rid of a ton of wastegate pressure in a hurry with the larger size wastegate. It'll evacuate pretty fast. So I'll show it to you here. I think I showed you anyway, but I'll dig it out of the box. It's a pretty good looking deal. I mean, you can spend a lot of money on these things. Like a lot of money. Oh. But anyway, here it is. There's the valve there. This one's I've got the seat in it. There's the seat for it right there. I already have it in there, and I got this clamp on it. And then it's got a V-band style clamp here. There's a boost port for up top if you want it, but actually the one you want is right here. Take that set screw out and put your one from your turbo. Like my turbo's actually got a fitting on it so that I can run the line right over to there. Now, what Buddy was telling me to do was just not bother with like rubber high temperature hose. He said just get airline, those cheapo airline connectors, and just use that and then tie it up out of the way. So I don't know. We'll figure that out when the time comes. But that's the wastegate. I think that'll work just fine for what we're doing. I mean, we're not running a 1,500 horsepower twin turbo setup or anything here, so it doesn't have to be that precise. But yes, yeah, she's a shiny, cheap wastegate, that's for sure. But usually, what a buddy of mine used to tell me was the shinier the part, the worse it's going to end up working. So I hope that's not the case. But anyway, I'm going to take it apart first because God knows where it came from. There could be a quarter pound of sand in the thing for all I know. So I never usually run stuff like that comes from like wherever you're not sure of the part without taking it apart and checking into it just to see what it is you actually have, right? And that saved my bacon on a number of different occasions. But anyway, yeah, so not much else happening, boys. Just dreaming big for when the snow leaves. I got that 8.8 rear end. I'm going to get that in the shop and get it cut and welded, and then I have to order a passenger side 31 spline 8.8 axle to fit the other side, and then the dimensions will be 59.5 inches, which is what you need for a Ranger. So everything's in the same location. You don't have to figure around with that. Then I got to figure out the drive shaft, because I have a 1310 U-joint in the shaft, and they're 1350 style, I think it is, that are on the 8.8. So I think there's an adapter you can get to go between the two of them. So we'll have to figure that out. I might have to add or subtract from my drive shaft length, and I won't be doing that. I take it up to Alan Armstrong's up in Kingston. He's got a race shop up here, and he builds custom drive shafts for high horsepower cars. This guy's got a 72 Opel GT with a 4-cylinder in it, and he's got some sort of track record in Wisconsin. The thing runs like 170 something miles per hour. It's in the sevens. It's ridiculously fast. It's probably pushing 1,000 horsepower, that little 4-cylinder. But anyway, it's quite a car, and they've got a custom race shop. And it's the most unsuspecting place you ever seen. It looks like a farmyard, like a barn, until you walk in there, and then you see the $1 million CNC machines. And they actually made an aluminum block. They put a great big chunk in there, and 24 hours later, after the LaserJet did its thing, they had a cylinder block, and they make heads and all kinds of stuff there. Yeah, like that's in my province. I know, I can't believe it either, Will. I almost pooped my pantaloons first time I went in there and saw all that stuff. And of course, the guy gets he's in his 70s, this guy, and he gets inundated with phone calls, like steady, day in, day out. Well known. But anyway, he built the drive shaft in my Ranger, and he did a hell of a job. He made it out of 80 thou double wall thickness, TIG welded it all up. They got a drive shaft lathe just for drive shafts, with a laser to take it all up, and he just did a lovely job. And I think he only charged me, boys, like $280 or something like that to make it Canadian. That's out the door. So I had all the U-joints and everything, but he figured it all out, and I did the measuring, and so that I had a 1 inch sticking out of the tail shaft of the transmission, like they say you should have for proper engagement and all that. That's the kind of stuff you got to stay on top of, especially when you start upping the horsepower. Like this turbo is going to add quite a bit of power to this rig, right? Like it's going to push a lot of freaking air into this motor, right? And with more air, more fuel, I mean, it's going to be one hell of a bang, right? So I got to do little things. I got a drive shaft safety loop. Eventually would like to do C-clip eliminators on the axles, because there's nothing more embarrassing than doing a burnout and then the whole brake drum and wheel and everything comes sliding out of the axle housing because you shattered a friggin' C-clip, right? Yeah. Canadian Marauder, it's a ghost town out here for high performance anything. Yeah, that's sad, dude, because you know what? I remember when I was a kid back in the late 70s and 80s, there were speed parts and speed stores everywhere. Like, I mean, literally, you could walk into a corner store and they'd have like Holley carburetors and cams, and they'd have all kinds of speed parts all over the place and all in stock. They didn't have to order anything. She's a different world nowadays, my friend. But anyway, that's not going to stop us. We're still going to figure out a way to do her. Wonder what he charges for blocks. I don't know. Something like that, would be pretty pricey, I would guess. You start off with a 300-pound of billet aluminum. And they make cylinder heads too, so. But, yeah, he's quite a race shop there. They have a full engine dyno in there too, and a lot of days you go in there and you can hear something screaming at like 7,500 RPM. They're testing something, right? They do a lot of testing in there. So when they sell you an engine that they've built, they do a complete package, which means they've even dynoed it. They mail you the dyno sheet, what it made on the dyno, and all the settings for the carburetor they use, and they sell the whole deal. It all comes in a big box on your front porch, right? Let me just teleport back a couple years and get a cam right quick. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? I remember I had a 71. My first car was a 71 Chevelle Malibu 2-door, and it had a 307 V8 that only ran on 7 cylinders. And it had a Power Glide 2-speed transmission with a 308 rear gear in it. And that was my first car and my first hot rod. And I walked into Maritime Motors in Summerside and just bought a cam right off the shelf and all the parts for it right off the shelf. I had got a Holly carburetor. I got a Performer RPM, I think it was, intake at that time, and a bunch of other stuff. And I had my B&M slap shifter and all that. And, that was back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. But things have changed a lot since then, my friend. But I mean, it's too bad because all those shops were owned, it seemed, by the coolest people. Like you always get some old hot rodder guy or a man and wife couple that own these places. And, it's sad that they're all gone, replaced by what? Impersonal service, direct to your door next day. Not even now, direct to your door next month now. But, I get a lot of stuff that I can't make, buy, beg, borrow, or steal from Summit Racing. They've always treated me pretty good. I haven't had any issues returning anything or getting anything, but they're having problems now getting parts. So are Jegs, apparently. So are a lot of different ones. So I've been kind of branching out, looking for new methods, new ways to get things that we need. Luckily for me, I know quite a few people that are into hot rods and Fords, and especially that have a fairly large backlog of old cars and parts, and sometimes I can get lucky there, right? Like the guy that sold me the Turbo, I mean, he's got stuff all over the place. He's got like a warehouse with 2 floors full of old shelves of old Ford parts and 390 FE motors and 64 Comets and Fairlanes and Mustangs, and he's got a 66 Fastback in there that he's restoring and all kinds of stuff like that. 289 K code motors with hypo heads and all that cool shit. He's got all that stuff. But I was in trouble with that car. Yeah, I did get in trouble a little bit with that. I used to, when the bars got out at late night, 2 a.m, we used to go running down through Charlottetown with that, and I got caught doing a few donuts and burnouts and stuff like that. But the cops were different back then too. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. They'd let you go home and get you home. Nowadays, they'll just shoot you on sight for that, right? It's like smoking in California. They just execute people nowadays for that, right? This is like the same kind of deal. But yeah, he's got an addiction. There's no question. Well, people like that, but he's a cool guy, and he's not attached to his stuff. And I used to horse trade parts with him. Like no cash would change hands. I'd just say, I'll give you this, this, and that for this and this. And he'd be like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. And I had a set of chrome valve covers, an oil pan, and an air filter for a 390 FE motor. And he was building one at the time. And so I horse traded that for a whole bunch of different parts that I needed, right? He's got good used like rocker arms and springs, and he's got the goodies, right? So it's nice to have somebody like that understands the sickness and is on your side when it comes to that sort of thing. But and I ended up selling that car, and I wish I hadn't have, because all that car needed was somebody that had a brain, and I didn't have a brain at the time. And I could have made it really, really cool. It was in pretty good shape. It needed a big block in the worst kind of way, and there was even big blocks around at the time. I remember coming across 396s and 454s that I could have put in that thing for not a lot of money. And, if I had it to do over again, I would have put a 454 in there with like a 4-speed in it, and then put a ginormous rear gear in it, like a 513 or something like that, and then just terrorized people from light to light down in Charlottetown, right? Open headers, the whole deal. But anyway, yeah, it's funny how you in life, sometimes you get the exam before you get the lesson. That's kind of the way I've learned most of my stuff when it comes to anything, really. It's just, you get the exam first, and then you figure out what you did wrong and try and learn from that, right? But anyway, that and then my very very first car was, I shared a car with my sister. We had an 81 Ford LTD station wagon that was about 60 feet long. I called it the Brown Bomb because it was that lovely brown Ford color at the time. And anyway, she hated that car because every time she got it, it would break down. But I loved it because it treated me like gold. And everybody at high school thought you were like some sort of chump for having a station wagon, or you're poor or something, until Friday night everyone needed a ride home. Then you were like the greatest thing ever because you could throw 30 people in this thing and drive them all home, right? But yeah, I remember some pretty quick trips late at night with my Chevelle once I got her rolling. I buried the needle a few times with that old girl, and she'd rock and roll once I had it figured out. But I had that needle come right around and go right to the bottom and start creeping up the other side. So I don't know. I think she stopped at 115 or 120 miles an hour, but I was definitely going that fast. The way you can tell in a big old car like that is when they start to float. You get they don't quite correct just as much input as you're putting into it. It takes them a minute to figure out what things, right? That's when you know you're going fast. But I should have had a parachute in that rig, Marauder, just to slow me down, because the brakes probably weren't working the best. It was four-wheel drum brake. I remember that. It had drums on the rear and drums on the front, but I did actually have them adjusted. I figured out how to adjust them and stuff. So, but anyway, yeah, what is Will saying here? Treats the women like crap and then treats the man like gold. Yeah, I could tell you some stories, buddy. Let me tell you. I'm sure you could too. But in any case, yeah, man, just trying to do it on the cheap. I see everybody with all these $1 million hot rods, and I don't get no interest in any of that, to be completely honest. If I could afford them, I wouldn't buy them. I'm way happier with something cheap, something I did myself. That way if something goes wrong, I only got myself to blame. I don't have anyone else to point the finger at. And there's just something cool about building something yourself. I don't know what it is. Sure, it may not be the greatest and the best, but just get out in the garage and just stop making excuses and go do it. That's more important. And that's where the cool factor of this whole sport comes in, man. Just get out there and do it. Make it happen. All right. Tell the girlfriend or the wife that you're busy or whatever, and get out there, turn the tunes on, and get her done. Right. And as soon as the weather gets better, that's what I'm planning on doing for this thing. I want to get after this. I don't want to spend the whole summer wrenching on the truck. If I can help it, I'd like to get it up and running and get it going the way I want it to go, and then still have the whole summer, the fall to drive the thing before the white crap ends up on the ground here, right? Again. And in between that, I'll be building motorcycles for people and engines and transmissions and rear ends and, so whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not complaining, because doing jobs for those people is what enables me to finance my ideas, right? But you wouldn't believe the crap I got floating around in here, man, like ideas of stuff I'd like to do. And it's like everything else, though. It's money and it's time that get in the way of you actually doing the thing. But we're not going to let that stop us. We're going to figure out a way to get her done. So stay tuned, fellas. She's going to be a parachute type ride. That's what I got planned. So we're gonna grip it and rip it. If I had $1 million, I get a Ford 427 single overhead cam. Yeah, the side oilers are cool. There's no question. They're rare as hen's teeth to actually find one in running condition, but they are around. I have seen a couple. They're very rare where I live here. Like, there's probably almost none, if there's any at all. To be honest with you, the only real one I've ever seen was in a museum. Well, it's the only real side oiler I ever saw in person. I never even heard it run. It was just sitting there stationary. But yeah, that'd be cool. Definitely. They're quite an engine. I guess they used to put the Ford Thunderbolt. Go check that out if you don't know what it is. The '64 Ford Thunderbolt. It was a Falcon type body with a lightning package, like aluminum or fiberglass fenders and hood and all that, and a big ass engine under the hood. And whenever guys used to show up in the mid '60s with these things, people used to actually go home because they knew there was no chance in hell they were going to beat this thing, right? That's how fearsome they were. There's a couple of videos on, if you go on YouTube and you type in The Drive, there's a video of that Mike guy driving a replica Thunderbolt. It's got a 331 stroker in it, but it's a pretty cool little car, just to get an idea of what they look like. There's Kimberly. My lady popped in to say hi. She's at work. But anyway, yeah, if money wasn't an option, I'm sure there'd be all kinds of different foolishness ideas we'd be coming up with for sure. But it doesn't matter. It never stopped the guys back in the 50s that were building hot rods, and the 40s. And, you know, they had kids and babies and payments, and, you know, they still managed to figure out a way to do it, right? So the idea is just to start with junk, essentially. That's you guys all know what my blueprint is. Start with a bunch of garbage that nobody wants, and then turn it into something cool. Right? There you go. That's the essence of hot rodding right there. Always has been, always will be. Sure, you're going to get guys that are going to go buy the factory hot rods, and there's nothing wrong with that. If a guy wants to go buy a new Hellcat or a Challenger or Charger or whatever he wants to buy, and he's earned the money to do it, have at her. I got nothing to say against it. But I think it's way cooler a guy that went and got an old car out of a junkyard or got an old car or truck or something and built it up and did something with it himself and made something cool out of that. I would much rather watch videos about a guy doing that than somebody that went to the dealership and dropped 70 grand on, I don't even know how much does the Hellcat even cost? I have no idea. I know they make a ton of power, but there's guys with turbo Mustangs that are blowing the doors off them on a daily basis. So I don't know how much, you know, they make like 700 horsepower or something, somebody told me. But they're also very, very heavy. They're like 4,000 pounds or 3,900 pounds or something like that. But whatever. You do what you can afford. But in any case, yeah, that's pretty much all I got tonight, fellas. Just on here for a little spitball session. Glad you fellas could join in. Canadian Marauder, Will, Kim, thanks for stopping by. Kim, I'll see you tonight when you get home. And I'll see you fellas this week, next Sunday for sure. But anyway, we should have a video or two that come in this week just to show you some of the foolishness I'm up to. Yeah, and everyone wants to race a Hellcat to say they beat a Hellcat. I don't know, Will. I'm sure they're quick and all that, but they don't look like anything special, to be honest. I seen a few of them racing online, and it looked like they were smoking the tires from like most of the trip down the drag strip. They don't seem to have very good traction, but maybe they had the traction control and stuff. I'm old school at heart. I like banging gears and carburetors and simplicity, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my motto. Anyway, thanks for joining in, fellas. I'll say goodnight to you all, and we'll see you on the next one. Thumbs up for War Amps. Stay classy.